What's up, guys? It's me, Strawhead Nate, and I'm back this week after a very long break with a new One Piece video. This week, we got chapter 1134 titled Owl Library. So, if you actively followed this channel months ago, sorry for abandoning it. I was a little bit busy with college, but depending on how I feel when winter break ends, I may or may not continue making videos after winter break. But for those who don't care about who I am and just care about One Piece, let's get into the chapter. Last time I made a video, we were finishing up Egghead, and now we are in a new arc, the long-awaited Elbaf. So the Straw Hats have already fought Road, the first minor villain of the arc, met Loki, who could shape up to be the major villain, or at least major player in this arc. And then also Robin was reunited with Saul, along with other Straw Hat giant reunions. And this chapter continues to build like the land of Elbaf, and contextualize it. But then in the end, some crazy shit happens. I'll get more into that later, but I just gotta say here that the evil Shanks twin theory probably came true in this chapter. So let's start getting into it, starting from the beginning after you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The cover this week is a fun color spread of all the Straw Hats riding on the back of Frankie, and this was clearly made in tribute to the legendary Kazuki Yao, the voice actor for Frankie, for more than 20 years. He has recently stepped down from the role, which is very unfortunate to hear, but he picked a new voice actor himself, so we got nothing to worry about as fans. Now we get into the chapter where the last chapter left off, on the beach with Jaguar D. Saul, after Robin reunited with him after many long years. And Luffy takes the initiative as captain and introduces himself. And this makes Saul proud because he knows now that Robin found a family to stay with who will protect her, which is the Straw Hat crew. And then Robin agrees with him and blushes, which makes all the crew tear up. And it's a really nice scene. And her relationship with the Straw Hat crew hasn't really been explored that much since Enies Lobby, so it's nice to see it on display here. Then Saul takes his turn to tell the Straw Hats who he is, a former Marine soldier and now a current scholar on Elbaf Island. And then Lilith immediately jumps on his face and asks if he recognizes her, but obviously he doesn't recognize her. He's never seen her in his life until she has to introduce herself as Vegapunk, which then jogs Saul's memory because he was good friends with Dr. Vegapunk, at least the Stella body. And speaking about the Stella body of Vegapunk, Jinbei then brings out a big box, and supposedly it's carrying a complete replica of the Stella body. And that's because Lilith has the plan to make a new lab on Elbaf because it'll be safe from the world government interference. They won't have to worry about constantly being watched if they're off the radar on a non-affiliated island. And Lilith even tells Bonnie that they'll be able to make Kuma, Bonnie's father, well again, which is a crazy statement considering how messed up his brain has been for years. And Saul is just grateful to be united with the great scientist that he once knew, but he's just still very confused about why Vegapunk in front of him is a girl. Now the focus kind of switches to a new nerdy looking giant named Aang, or Ainge, and she is a librarian in the main library of the island, the Owl Library, and also Saul's assistant. And Ainge is ready to show them the library, which could shape up to have many ancient textbooks considering how old Elbaf history is, and they have all the Ohara books as well. Luffy and Usopp, in their excitement, are the first to run to the library, which they're running to a library. That's odd for their characters, but it's just the adventure itself that excites the two. And then Chopper and Nami are also excited to actually learn in the library. They're just not as excited as Luffy is. And then the Owl Library is shown from the outside, and it's kind of like a really extreme treehouse with many balconies and hanging rooms. And Ainge mentions that the school of the island is also nearby the library. So there's a bunch of kids playing outside, and then the kids start to chase after Luffy and Usopp. They think they're just playing a game, but their idea of a game is to chase them down and to make them prisoners of war, which shows how barbaric the teachings of Elbaf are. If it wasn't Luffy and Usopp who they were chasing, they could actually cause like harm to any humans that they play with. And the girls of the group tell the boys to stop chasing around the humans and calling them names because that could be offensive. But Usopp assures them that he doesn't take offense and they're just kids after all. Then Zoro hears a voice because it turns out that the humans were actually standing on top of a giant this whole conversation. This female giant that they're standing on is the biology teacher of the kids' school, and her character design is pretty cool. She has like a braided hair and she has a lion tattoo running down her entire body, and her name is Ripley, who was mentioned by the human boy on the coast of Elbaf recently. And she lets the Straw Hats know that the era of violence and war on Elbaf is a thing of the past, and they're more civilized now. Ripley apologizes for her students' behavior, and then she also mentions a quote from King Harold about being peaceful and like trading with others. And King Harold, remember, was the former king who was killed by Loki 6 years ago, and this caused Loki to be chained up. And before the Straw Hats get to tour the library, Ripley has a final remark to Luffy, telling him she was hoping to see his white form, Gear 5, which Luffy calls his freedom form because he still doesn't know the real meaning that he's the sun god. And now there's a short little scene in the library which has Saul, Robin, and a couple of Straw Hats. And Saul tells her about how he had the help of the other giants, including Haryuden, to get all of Ohara's books after Ohara was burnt down. And he's very proud of being able to accomplish this, to bring all the books back to Elbaf. And we witness a weird occurrence as they walk into the library. The book Robin's holding in her hand immediately expands. He explains that the books are gigantified in this library so that the giants are able to read it, which is really cool. He just doesn't really explain how it's happening. And as Robin looks at the spacious library, she actually tears up because she thinks back to Professor Clover, and it's a pretty cute scene. But now we get to the end of the chapter and more serious stuff starts to go down. In the underworld, Loki is on a call via transponder still with a person named Mosa. We don't know what this person looks like. We don't even know this person's gender. And Loki seems to be laughing and reminiscing with this person, even though he says that they never met in person. Mosa could just be like a companion that Loki was given to keep him company while he's chained up for eternity. And since Mosa tries to say that Loki is a kind person who's friends with him, Loki kind of refuses this because, according to him, he's done with kindness. And it makes it confusing whether he's going to be a villain or not. And then, while the party starts up in the village with all the giants and the Straw Hats, some unexpected things happen. Things that don't get noticed by anybody. In the main castle of the village, which is elevated up on that branch, if you remember from the landscape view of last chapter, it gets struck by black lightning. And then where the lightning hits, a star-shaped summoning circle spawns on the ground. This is nearly identical to the summoning of the Gorosei on Egghead, except the circle doesn't have the numbers 1 through 5 on it, it's just blank. And the reason it's similar to the Gorosei spawn is because the two individuals who spawn from this summoning circle are two members of the Holy Knights, presumably. These two might serve as the main antagonists of this arc, and one of them looks like a girl covered completely in bandages besides her eye, and the catch is the other one looks identical to Shanks. Yes, the evil Shanks twin theory that I thought was just a meme in the community, honestly, has come true in this chapter. This is the Shanks who met with the Gorosei back in Reverie, but it was not the Emperor Shanks that we know. If you remember back then, they never showed his left side of his face with the scars, which probably means that it's just a completely different person from Shanks. Another member of the Figarland family. Maybe he is also the person that was shown in the big double-page spread of everyone who's going to be a major player in the final arc. But that's the end of the chapter here. I think that it's one of the best chapters in Elbaf because of that last scene. It's really like stirring up the pot. And these invaders from Marijois will hopefully start like the rising action phase of the arc, leading up to a crazy fight, hopefully. And the unnamed Shanks twin will definitely cause a lot of confusion on an island that pretty much adores and praises Shanks. And it also will cause confusion if Luffy ever encounters him, because Luffy looks up to Shanks. And we're gonna have to wait to see what these two Holy Knights are here for in the coming weeks. But there will be a break next week for Christmas. So if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to show your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.